And we are live on Facebook.
I was seeing how long I could hold out until you lost your mind. There we go. Just wait till everyone gets on here. Looks like you already enabled the chat box.
It only takes me 2 or 3 months to learn my lesson.
All right, everybody. As usual, we're going to be getting started here in a little bit. If you've got questions, pop them in the Q&A box. If you would just want to say hi, pop that in the chat box. That'll be useful. The sooner you can pop questions in, the better, because, you know, after a few minutes of us letting people get on here, we'll get started. And it's nice to have questions already kind of queued up and ready to go. So if you've got questions about anything marketing related, Shopify, Amazon, anything, let us know. That's what we're here for. We'll get started in just a few minutes. All right, we'll get started here in a second. If you got questions, you can go ahead and start popping them in the Q&A box. And that's what we're here for. Checking out, see what we got in the chat box. John Michelle says, hey, what's up? Moazam says, hey, Matt and Mike, trucking along and always great to be here. Kathleen says, how did the move go? Went pretty well. We're here in Austin at a lease house. We'll see where we end up after this, but we made it to Austin. Thank you. Got Jazz, Richard, Jeremy. Sweet. So Laura has popped in a question there, and if everybody else has questions, pop those in the Q&A box. Mike, did you have something you want to mention?
Yeah, I wanted to find out, for those of you who joined the holiday bootcamp yesterday, let us know in the chat box how you enjoyed it. Did you like it, love it, hate it? Just let us know what you thought, because we haven't done one of those in a while, and we want to get some feedback on what you guys thought of the bootcamp.
And somebody's like, oh, why did Mike have the ball on his hat in the front instead of the side?
Those are the important things that we'll have to work through when we do our post-bootcamp debrief.
Yeah.
All right, so Laura here says, one of my future marketing plans is to offer free online courses for customers. I'm a dog trainer. Do you know of the best online learning platform to connect with my Shopify store? I'm going to build, the thing just jumped. I'm going to build these out while I'm in product development and wondering if I should be using an all-in-one solution like Kajabi or something exclusively for courses like Thinkific. Any suggestions? My goal would be to include my products as helpful training solutions in the course content. We did a course one time. We ended up getting rid of it because it wasn't really worth it. But we had one course for Life Boost. And I think we used at the time Thinkific because it was the one that seemed to integrate with Shopify pretty well. But It kind of, I mean, we use at Amazing. We started using Kajabi, and I think it's great. Like, I think it's better, easier to use, super simple, nice and clean. So I would recommend using Kajabi. As far as like easiest to integrate with Shopify, I'm not so sure, but I imagine with some combination of Zapier and stuff, you should be able to make sales from Shopify, create logins over in Kajabi, no problem. And, you know, as far as I know, I don't know if necessarily any of the other course platforms integrate any better. May want to do a little research, but as far as a course platform goes, I think Kajabi is pretty nice. Donica says the session yesterday was phenomenal. I learned a lot of strategies I'll be implementing. You also supplied us with a lot of tactics. Cool.
Awesome. Hiroko says loved it as well. So did Priyat. Yeah. So by the way, if you haven't seen the announcement yet, the replay is already up inside of your same login. So when you log into dtchero.com, you'll see the holiday bootcamp. You can go there, watch the entire workshop. Plus we have the slides we put together for you in a PDF format, and also have the links to a couple of the templates that we talked about. So it's all ready to go for those of you who did not see it.
Yep. And we don't, let's see. Is the price today for SellerCon our price on OCM?
Omni-channel machine.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure what you mean on omni-channel machine. Let me see. Oh, for members. You all know anything about that? I mean, I know we're running.
He's asking if Omni has different pricing.
Oh, no, I don't think so. Because right now we're still kind of in this phase where we're about to lock down the dates. And so it's still kind of a discounted price for everyone. And that price is going to go up soon. But right now there's no like, because we don't really want to, even at the current price, it's kind of a loss making price for us, to be honest. So then as soon as we get these dates locked down, we're going to start bumping the price up.
And Matt, we did have a question from Rob Barber the other day in the Facebook group. And I mentioned that we talked to it today because I wanted to get your input on it. Rob says, I have a question about subdomains. Are there any downsides to using shop.mydomain.com versus just mydomain.com for my Shopify domain? The reason is because I have a brand site that's been live for many years. I'm well indexed, and I use that to link people via WooCommerce to my Amazon store for each product. So I'm thinking about all the other tracking I'd have to change around in order to move it over to a Shopify store. So basically built up a lot of traffic using links going to his Amazon store. And if he replaces all that with a Shopify store, then he won't be sending people to Amazon. And I told him I'd want to get your input on that.
I mean, I think it depends how much traffic right now your site's actually getting, because I know you say it's like well indexed, but I mean, that literally just means like somebody types your brand and your site shows up and it's not getting a lot of traffic based on that. Then if so, then it doesn't really matter. And I would just keep my life simpler and just have Shopify take over the whole domain. But if you've got all kinds of pages that are getting all kinds of traffic all day long, and it's actually pretty meaningful for your business, then yeah, I mean, the lower risk option is just to use a subdomain. I mean, some websites use that because maybe like one that I don't know, it's been a while since I looked at it, but there's a big doctor in the space that's done online marketing stuff forever called like Dr. Mercola. And so like he started off by having a bunch of content on his website, built up this like massive following. And then later on, I believe, started selling supplements and that kind of thing. So him and people like that, I think Dr. Axe is probably like another one. They originally had like a subdomain or something like that. That was where their store was hosted because their main business was like a content business. So that totally makes sense. It's just going to make things slightly more complicated for you. So it depends if your current site has that much traffic going on.
Awesome.
Paul says dates were announced today, I think. Sort of. Yesterday on the bootcamp, we kind of mentioned that the dates we're looking at are May 18th through 20th in Austin. And they're not 100% confirmed yet because we're in this period with the venue where they're basically kind of doing the confirmation. And so it seems all good, but I don't think we're going to like for sure know. And for another like 2 days or so, but that's what it's looking like. David says, hi guys, I understand that in the beginning, it's going to take $20 to $30 of ad spend to generate a purchase. My question is, will there be a point in time when our product will hit a tipping point and take off? or will it always take that kind of money to get purchases? And if so, how do we scale down the road? I think it's more likely going to be the case that at some point you got to make those numbers work. Like, I don't think at some point you're going to be getting, $40 purchases, and then all of a sudden you're going to cut that down to like 20, and then you can scale massively. It's more like you got to get that purchase down to a certain point where it's like breaking even up front. At the same time, you're like increasing your conversion rate and average order value so that those numbers work out. And then the game is, once you get those numbers working out on a small scale, is how do you keep spending more money without those numbers kind of going out of whack? Which sometimes if you scale a campaign from like $100 a day to like $1,000 a day, all of a sudden your cost per purchase before was $30 and now it's like $60. And this happens all the time. These are common problems you run into. And so you're kind of the game at that point, which an agency and stuff can help. But what you're trying to do is like, you spend $100 and you spend $200, $500, $1,000 a day. And then they're all at the same roughly like cost per purchase. And that's how you scale. And that's kind of typically the path.
I'll take the question from Samantha. Samantha asks, if we're doing a consumable, do you suggest that we use someone who is already an FDA approved graphic designer to do our design of our label, or should we try to keep costs down and look all that up ourselves and design our own label? I wouldn't do either one of those. What I would do is get the requirements from your supplier. They're more than likely already FDA approved. They already have their own product. They already have their own approval usually for their products. And then use any designer. As long as you have the seal and the right wording to show that it's approved, I don't think there's any big advantage to having a designer who says that they're an FDA approved graphic designer. I've never even heard of that. It's probably someone who's just done that in the past. So yeah, just get the requirements that you need. Start with your supplier for that, and then pick just the best designer and the most affordable designer as well. And that should work well for you, Samantha.
I can get this next one. Lauren asked, my Amazon restock limits have been reduced for the holidays. I have Shopify and Amazon connected for fulfillment. I plan on getting my Shopify landing page finished and marketed soon. Should I plan on sending orders myself, or will Amazon increase my storage limits fast enough? So this is actually a big challenge that a lot of people are having right now, where Amazon has cut limits and then people can't send in more inventory. So you could ship some yourself or use something like Deliverr, but there's actually a hack that you can use to get more availability at Amazon. Basically, if you create a multi-channel fulfillment hold order, so you go in, act like you're creating a manual multi-channel fulfillment order, and instead of choosing the link where it says ship, you choose the one that says hold for 2 weeks, and you can place those hold orders, and those will actually give you storage increase 1 for 1. Basically, it makes it look like you sold those, and so now you've freed up that amount of space. And once they process for the next week, they'll count those into your sales velocity and increase your limits that way too. So what we usually will do is we'll set up, a few small ones, as well as you can do them up to like 200 or 250 units. And then if I need inventory to sell, I can release some of those small ones. But we usually have, more than enough units on a given item that it just allows us to free up space to shipments.
What the heck, Devin? I was like, that could have saved us probably like a couple $100 in our move. We had like 10 or 15 of like Callie's product boxes like sitting in our garage. We were trying to figure out what to do with because Amazon wouldn't let them send her in. So I don't know what she ended up doing. They either got moved with all the rest of our stuff or she shipped them somewhere. That would have been nice to know.
Now you know.
Nice. I won't tell her because then she'll you just answered that one. So link for SellerCon tickets, just go to sellercon.com, SELLERCON.com, and you'll see all that there, Rob. Kathleen, I was kind of reading through this one a little bit, says, for Matt, got great feedback from Devin and Mike on Tuesday, but would love your thoughts. We stumbled across a beverage bottling manufacturer who offers oodles of services, help with beverage formulation, R&D, small batch test runs, package design, production, etc. We're waiting for information from them. Obviously, there'll be a cost. Not sure what the cost is going to be. Hoping we'll be able to pick and choose what services. Devin commented that R&D could be super helpful. Mike said he would be concerned whether it's just one upfront cost or if they take a piece of royalties. It's hard to know without knowing more information about the situation and what they're actually offering. But with anything like that, to me, I'm always like, what's the maximum risk? If they're like, you got to put 100 grand down and you're stuck with us for 12 months, then to me, it's like a deal breaker. But if it's kind of like, you can get out of it anytime you want, you can pick and choose like you're kind of asking, then it's an easier answer. And so with any of that kind of stuff, like if they try to lock you into any kind of like longer term deal, especially from the beginning, I would say no, and I would pass. Otherwise, hard to give feedback without more specifics.
All right. Next question from Jeremy. Our initial product will not have all the intended features that we desire, but we want to start quickly with one strong differentiator. Our plan is to get launched and add the remaining features as we work through the product development. We have some crazy ideas centered around the actual testing and development that I think will be entertaining. Should we document the development or our other features and use that for marketing? Our only concern is IP. So I would totally document anything and everything. And at the end of the day, you get to decide when you make those videos live. So again, it's kind of like if you're worried about IP, well, maybe wait to make that live until you're pretty close to launching, and then you don't have to worry about it. The main thing is most people, like, even if somebody wanted to copy you, like, execution can take time, right? So if you're close to launching, then they're not going to be able to execute fast enough that it's really going to be an issue.
Mike, you want to take the one from John Michelle, since
Of
you're a
course.
resident international tax expert? Hey, no, it wasn't Devin. Weren't you an accountant? I think it's Devin.
It was, yeah.
Devin, this one's all
Both
you.
of us, weren't you a CPA too, Mike?
No, I was a consultant working for a CPA company.
Okay, got it. So let's see here. Jean-Michel says, this is a long question. Yes. Do you know of any difference in market potential between Canada and USA? We just had a Zoom call with an accountant and told us that it may be more complex having a business in Canada and selling in the USA concerning tax reporting in every state, as well as eventually withdrawing money from the business to ourselves. That sounds like an accountant just being conservative. From little research on Google, I've seen that if our gross sales or units sold through each state does not exceed the state's nexus, it may be simpler regarding taxes. I found a tool, Avalara, that simplifies taxes for the US. Are you familiar with it? The second option is to set up an LLC in the US, as this can simplify the process. The third option is start selling in Canada. So Canada obviously is going to be a much smaller market. As far as tax stuff goes, so there's a software called TaxJar, which is similar to Avalara. That's what we use. Basically, it can integrate with Amazon and Shopify and other marketplaces as well. The main thing when it comes to sales tax is you have to hit, like, in most states, they have both, economic nexus and locational nexus, basically physical nexus is what they call it. But in most cases, it's kind of like you have to have at least 200 plus sales in a year, and or $100,000 in revenue in that state, which it varies state to state. So obviously look at the specifics for any given state. But it's kind of one of those things that when you're starting off, it's not really going to be an issue. And then, like, say you get to a decent amount of volume, and now you need to start collecting in, say, California or Florida, any of the major states. Well, then it's kind of like, okay, at that point, register in that state and, collect at that point. But, if you haven't hit that threshold, you really don't need to worry about sales tax in the States. So again, CPAs and accountants like to be conservative and tell you things not to do because it's going to make taxes complicated. But at the end of the day, I would much rather sell millions of dollars in the US and have to figure out sales tax than selling in a significantly smaller market in Canada and limit my income potential.
Yeah, and we've had tons of people over the year, by the way, that have been from Canada and they primarily sold in the US. Like, it's a very common thing for us.
Yeah, and I know there's some tax treaty things that can come into play. Like, those are better questions for a Canadian tax specialist. But yeah, as far as US sales tax stuff, it'll probably be a while before it becomes an issue for you in even one state. And then, let alone all 50 of them. So.
Yep. And then Donica here says, Matt, will you be teaching the group the best or recommended retargeting strategies? I need my product to follow my audience everywhere they go, whether it be from different sites on the internet to their phone or whatever device or channel they're using. I like the spirit of this. I personally don't think it makes sense to spend a ton of time worrying about retargeting until you have a decent amount of traffic going to your store. Otherwise, you just don't have that many people to retarget. And so you're sitting there managing these ads and they're kind of like spending this money targeting a very limited audience group, which until the audience group is of a certain size, the ads may not even run. And then when they do run, when that audience kind of reaches whatever that tipping point is, which is kind of a black box, I guess, on some of the social platforms, then your frequency can get really high because they're retargeting of such a small number of people. And so I would kind of wait until you're probably getting, I don't know, at least a couple hundred visitors a day to your store. And then once you get to that point, I would start, the most simple option would be like a Facebook retargeting ad and just one campaign targeting your website visitors that have visited your site like in the last 30 days or so. And then just send them to one of your best landing pages or discount pages and just let that thing run on a limited budget. Start with like 20 bucks a day. And then if it's spending that and the numbers look good and the frequency, which you can just add a column there on Facebook, is not going like out of control, like over 3, for example, then you can kind of just let that run evergreen. And to me, that would be the most like basic way to start. To me, part of retargeting, and like you're talking about all these different devices and stuff, is making sure you're sending emails and doing SMSs every week, because that's another way to reach people that's kind of, doesn't matter if there's pixels on their devices because you're just contacting them at their personal information. Then beyond that, I would still be posting on social also, even though it's not technically retargeting, but they may have unsubscribed from your emails. They may not have the pixel on whatever device that they're using anymore, but they follow you on a social media account. So then like, that's another way to just constantly be reaching these same people, finding some way where they can't like ignore you. And then later down the road, when you start getting more significant traffic, you can add more retargeting channels, such as like Google Display. YouTube is another good one where you can just do the same thing. You're targeting your website visitors. Anytime they're watching a video on YouTube, you have the potential to kind of put your own ad or video in front of them. And so that's when I would start kind of adding those. That's kind of the order of priority that I would work in. And Mike or Devin, I don't know if y'all have done anything. I know there's all these like Google search retargeting and stuff. Like I'm less familiar with those, but I don't know if those have been effective at all or that useful.
No,
I mean, Facebook makes it dead simple.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Devin.
No, I was just like, we've used like AdRoll, and AdRoll, to me, the results were pretty crappy. And I don't know, like, granted, we don't have like that much traffic yet. So yeah, I'm curious, once you have the same, like say the visitors that you guys have with Life Boost, if something like AdRoll is more effective at that point. But most of the retargeting we've ever done has just been on like Facebook ads. And then even on that, if you're only getting a handful of visitors, like they'll get picked up in your original ads anyway. So as long as you're not separating them out and kind of isolating that like website visitors in your ads, then they're going to get retargeted with the same ads anyway.
Yeah, and setting those up on Facebook is real simple. I mean, they actually have a type that's a retargeting type, and you can do it from inside of Shopify. Shopify's own marketing automations, you'll see on the left-hand side menu, it's a whole new set of automations they create up. One of them is Facebook retargeting ads. It'll set it up for you. The only downside is that we haven't gotten great results because they're so boring. I mean, they're literally just showing the main product image, and you have maybe like their suggested headline is forget something. And so many people just kind of like leave that there. Maybe it works sometimes, but it's not too catchy. I think to really make them work, you have to test out some different headlines, maybe even some different graphics, which they don't make it easy to do. But I would try mine. Spending a little bit of money, $10 a day on retargeting, might even have a hard time spending that until you get up there. Try the easy one out first, and that will give you the best chance of seeing how well it works for you. I'll take Daniel's question. Daniel says, on Amazon, my products have a variant, but from the beginning, I didn't create it with options for a variant. Would it be good to create a new listing, or can it be integrated? So I wouldn't create a new listing because you're going to lose all of the reviews, the ranking juice, ranking power you have, and everything on there, I would leave it as is. And if you really want it to be a variant, then you can set that up inside of Seller Central. And I will tell you the best way to do it. Like, you can do it yourself. They have some help files inside of Amazon Seller Central. Or, Daniel, you can get on the phone with Seller Central support, and it's one of the things they do an awesome job at. They'll walk you through setting up a variation. They're like, okay, go ahead, change this field on this list, on this listing to match this one. They'll walk through exactly what it takes. I've done that almost every time with their seller support, and they'll walk you through putting it together. Keep in mind that combining all the reviews from the child listings of a parent doesn't always work. Amazon started limiting that a lot over the past year or two. So the reviews may still be separate. Some categories they'll combine, some they won't. You don't really have a lot of control over it, but you will get people more eyes on both your products then. So that's what I would do. Use seller support, and they'll walk you through that.
Let's see, I can take this one. Raul asks, hey guys, I recently joined Omni channel and I live in the UK looking to sell in the US. I was wondering if you could give some info in terms of setup, company formation, bank account, tax, etc. So yeah, we're not really in a position to give like accounting and legal advice. But the main thing that most people will do is they'll have some sort of a UK entity that, following whatever their UK accountant tells them to do, or their UK attorney tells them to do, and then use that entity to sell in the US. That's basically what we do. We sell in the UK. We just use our US entity to sell in the UK. And so, yeah, that would be my 2 cents.
And definitely check out for one of the posts in the Facebook group too, Raul. We've had this question come up several times now because it's not something that we faced. We don't live outside of the US selling in the US. And so we talked to actually Shopify, and they gave us the like 2 options. One, you can set up a US entity, kind of like what you suggested, but Devin said you don't need to because you don't. Because the main way that Shopify said to do it is that you can set up in your own country, and then there's an option. What is it called? Markets, I think, Devin, in Shopify. Yeah, then you can choose which market or markets you want to sell in. They make it super simple. It's a lot simpler than on Amazon. And so we have a post that talks about that, and then Devin and I will be incorporating that into the training as well.
Jeremy's asking, can you own a hashtag on TikTok? This brand sells like 80 million on Shopify and uses a hashtag for organic social media. The hashtag is Adventure Challenge, I guess. Yeah, no, as far as I know, you can't own a hashtag anywhere. Some people create their own hashtags and they use it in like all their posts, and they tell their customers to tag it and all that kind of stuff. That's the only way that I think that typically works, is you don't really have any control. I mean, other people can use that all day long. I mean, we've had hashtag for like SellerCon, and then I see random stuff pop up with like hashtag SellerCon that's sometimes related, sometimes completely unrelated. And so you don't really have any control over that. It's just like if you choose something like semi-unique, then you may be the person who only has any like meaningful videos on there.
I can take this one too. So Jean-Michel had a follow-up to the previous tax question. Basically, so regarding taxes, will we collect the taxes from sales on Shopify? If I'm not mistaken, when selling on Amazon, Amazon does that for us. So we did not have any tax reporting to do. So yeah, basically on Shopify, if and when you meet the Nexus thresholds that you need to register in states, which you won't for a while, then you'll enter your tax registration number for that given state in your backend on Shopify. And then that will trigger Shopify to charge the additional sales tax when anybody from that state orders. And then you're collecting that, and you will have to file the sales tax returns and remit to the states. So again, if you use like a software like TaxJar, it can make that really easy because it will pull in all of your data and then give you like a monthly report that you can use to fill out the return. And a lot of those softwares also offer like monthly, so you can pay a fee and they'll file the reports on your behalf. So you kind of have different options there, but again, not something you have to worry about until you actually hit those thresholds.
Got a couple of questions from Hiroko over in the chat area. I'll take the second one, Matt, if you maybe want to take the first one after this. Hiroko says, I have a company with my apartment address that I'm renting in Europe, and I found out that I need to have a woven tag on the product itself with the address in my category. In that case, do you think it would be easier if I get an address in the US as a branch office? So I know that when it comes to textiles and clothes, the tags are the most important thing when importing the products to make sure they're right so they don't get disposed of. And Amazon has their own rules as well. So if the requirement is, and I don't know this, but if the requirement is to have an address on there, I don't think it matters whether it's going to be a European address or a US address. If the requirement is just to have an address, then any address would work. The question may be, do you really want your home apartment address on there? Probably not. So in that case, I would probably get a post office box or some kind of like suite over where you're at and put the address on there. I don't think people will care whether it's a US based address versus a European based address, Shiroko. I just wouldn't want my personal home that I'm actually living at on the address there.
Yep. And then the other question Mike mentioned is, I'm thinking ahead about the influencer marketing while we're waiting for my samples. Is it an option to reach out to influencers to do affiliates, or does a one-time investment, for example, $300 for 3 posts work better? I think either one can work. It depends on the type of affiliate. Some may only do one or the other. Like there's some like Instagram pages and stuff that literally all they do is shout outs. Like they don't care about doing affiliates. So they're just going to like charge you a fee per post. And that's their only option. There are other ones that may be different. Like I've got a friend who does quite a bit of stuff with like YouTube influencers. And some of those ones they want, because they know like YouTube videos can kind of grow and compound over time. So I think they like the kind of never ending affiliate commission model better. So I would kind of, depends on the platform. If it's Instagram, I'd probably say like you're just paying for a post. If it's something like a review video or something like that, they're probably going to want like an affiliate commission like on YouTube or something. So I think either one is fine. You can always pitch either one.
We did a decent amount of like Dream 100 outreach to like YouTubers. And the one challenge that we ran into was like a lot of the larger ones that had audiences worthwhile always were like, I want, $2,000 a video or $5,000 a video, with at least with like our items that were, $20 items, right? Like if you're selling a higher price point item, then, they maybe are more willing to do some of the, affiliate setups, but like we were only really successful getting people that had like 50,000 subscribers or less to agree to an affiliate only model.
I did, by the way, attend a Facebook webinar last week. It was on their branded content. It's something they just released to everyone, where it was released to a small group. Now it's been released to everyone, where you can much easier hire out creators now in order to have them be affiliates basically for you to promote your brand. And so just do a search for Facebook branded content. And it's a whole new dashboard you get access to that will allow your brand, once you have it created, connect with creators or influencers on Facebook. You can even do searches for them, try to find them, and then you can work out a deal. It doesn't doesn't tell you what the deal is, you have to work that out, but at least allows you to connect with them. I haven't used it yet, so I don't have like best practices, but we're going to be testing it out so that we can show you guys like what we did and didn't do with it, what worked well. So that's one thing you can look into. Also, Shopify Collabs is something that just opened up. They're pushing it really hard, where you can go out there and they have a database of influencers that you can connect with. It isn't getting great reviews yet, but I think it's mostly because of the technical parts of it. It just doesn't work real easily, like with making payments to the collaborators or to influencers. But Shopify is pushing it really hard. So look up Shopify Collabs, and it's a free tool you can get, and it'll connect you with collaborators who can promote your Shopify store, your products directly as well. Again, I've signed up for it. I'm going through the training on it right now. Have not used it yet, so I can't really tell you best practices, but those are two different ways. Low risk, I think, in order to try out some influencers.
What was the Facebook one called again?
Branded content.
Branded content.
And they have a whole new studio called the Creator Studio that they've made available to people who are becoming influencers, and it connects them with you. You have a branded dashboard that connects brands with influencers. And it makes it looks very, very exciting. Facebook's excited about it. It's a really big initiative. That's why they had a special webinar to roll it out to some brands. So I'm interested in trying it out myself.
That's cool.
So Richard here says, I'm in the final round for choosing an outdoor logo. Some designers have included small icons of male hikers or mountain climbers in their logo. Should we avoid gender-specific icons in the logo to make it more generic for marketing reasons? I mean, if you're going to sell a product that's for both men and women, then I would probably not include one or the other in your logo. I mean, there's little people icons where you can't really tell what's going on. Just shows a person climbing or something. That would probably be better, because then it's just going to be like, if you've got a little guy in there, some, woman is maybe looking at that thing and like, I don't know if they have products for me or not. And it's just like, there's no point in putting that barrier in place if you don't have to. So I would probably avoid that. Maybe if one of you guys.
I'll take Lawrence. Does anyone think that the Amazon posts seen in mobile and on your store help with sales? I haven't heard of, a lot of people driving a lot of traffic with posts or not yet. It's just like they had a lot of hype, the year or two ago when they came out. I know people are talking all about the views they were getting on their posts, but I never heard anyone talking about all the sales they were getting on their posts yet. It just doesn't seem like any that really has taken off yet. The benefit the posts really were to get people to read them. So this content you can release right on Amazon and then hopefully get them to follow you. And the entire reason you wanted them to follow you was because you could then take advantage of sending out emails straight from inside of Amazon to people who became your followers. That never took off as well because it was just hard to get people to follow you. And so now Amazon's changed it up and they're rolling out the ability to email your customers based upon a set criteria. People who purchased from you in the past set amount of time, I think it's like 30, 90 days, and then up to a year. And then also people who are repeat purchasers from you. That to me, that tells me that the posts didn't really do what they wanted as well. So they'll be rolling that out to a lot of people, I think over the next, couple months here.
Yeah, I've heard like a lot of, I know some people said that, especially if you're going to post content places, you might as well do it through posts and stuff on Amazon too. But yeah, I haven't seen anything as far as like sales tracking. But I have heard people say they think it gets them more impressions on their listings. So maybe that means sales. I have no idea.
Rip and Jot here says, hi, good afternoon, everyone. I was checking my competitor's website a couple of days ago and it was down. My browser is not opening the site when there was an error, and the explanation was that it was trying to steal people's personal data. However, today it's working fine. What was that, and how can I avoid such things in the future? Have no idea, because that could be very generic. Today, and this was not the case like 5 years ago, today, like pretty much every page of your site should be secure. So you should be able to access it from HTTPS. If that's not the case, then that's going to flag an error in a lot of browsers. It's not as bad in Chrome, but on like Firefox, it's like if you go to any page that doesn't have that, like it's throwing this crazy error and it's just going to kill conversion rates. So that's the only thing that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
You got
There's a question for Rob over in the Facebook group, and I'll throw it out to maybe Devin and I can take this one. Rob says, what are the sales tax thresholds? I think it's by state. Like, I don't think that there is one for every single state. Once the US government comes through and kind of like says that it's $10,000 or whatever, then we may have that. But as of right now, each state sets their own nexus or sales tax threshold, as far as I know. Is that correct, Devin?
Yeah, so I'll drop a link. There's basically TaxJar has like a page on their site, and then you can look at the info per state. So like I'll drop it, and then I can share my screen and show you guys. So there's the link. Quick screen share. So basically in TaxJar, if you go to taxjar.com, they have it down here, this sales tax by state. And then that just pulls up this map. So like if we look at Missouri as an example, so then they'll say, do you need to collect sales in Missouri? And they're all set up similar, right? So basically it'll look at like, do you have physical nexus? Do you have economic nexus? They talk about like, is what you're selling taxable? And then, how to get a permit in that state, and, basically every piece of information that you need for the state. So like, as an example, in Missouri, it mentions that in Missouri to have nexus, you have to have at least $100,000 in sales in the last 12 months. And then I'm trying to see, and it doesn't look like they have a number of orders, right? So basically, like, for you to need to collect sales tax in Missouri, you either need to have like a warehouse that you have stuff in Missouri, or past this threshold is typically kind of how that is determined, right? So if you're not doing either of those things, then you don't need to collect in Missouri. And honestly, what I would do is just assume that, like, once you hit 100,000, then you would register, but I wouldn't even necessarily worry about this, especially if you're using Amazon for fulfillment. So that's just my 2 cents, not a tax attorney.
Any more questions in the Facebook group, Mike?
That was it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and that's all the questions for this week. If you all have questions, by the way, like throughout the week and stuff, I think a good use of this time, because this isn't really like training and stuff. It's just us kind of making ourselves available for you. So as you have questions like throughout the week, it's probably easier than trying to come up with them on the spot. Write them down and just get ready to kind of bring them up on each one of these calls. And same thing goes with these guys on Tuesdays. I think that's a good use of these kind of things, because I have to imagine there's lots of marketing questions that kind of pop up. And so we're here to answer them. And so it's just kind of going to be easier if you kind of write them down, you come ready for them, because we're happy to hammer through as many of these as we can, because I think we have 90 minutes allotted each time. And so we've got plenty of time here. We just kind of want to make sure we answer everything we possibly can. And if we ever get to the point in the future where we can't get to all of them, or there's like some topic that's just getting like overwhelming demand, like we can always do another coaching call. Like we're kind of following a model that's been kind of proven for other people. And then Mike and Devin probably kill me, but I've heard other people having like 5 coaching calls a week, but there's kind of like specialists in each one. It's not the same people just doing 5 times. So we have that ability. If there's ever a topic that's in super demand, if we're not the expert, if we need to get somebody else, we can get somebody on there, because we want to make sure that this is as valuable as possible for you. Thank you, Daniel says, love you guys. All right, cool. Jean-Michel. Hiroko, on the ad list of Life Boost Coffee on the video, I feel like I didn't see Instagram. What do you talk about Facebook ad? Do you include Instagram too? Yeah, pretty much anytime I'm talking about Facebook ads, I'm including Instagram. Unless it's like a special case, pretty much every time we're running Facebook ads, we're running them on Instagram at the same time. That's kind of the default on Facebook. And unless we're testing something or we want specifically to do some growth strategy for Instagram, we're including both of them together. Devin, more about Nexus.
Yeah. So basically, Rich asked, what defines physical nexus? It sounded like in the Missouri example, using Amazon is not an issue. Does this also apply to Shopify? So basically, the way they define nexus is like, do you have an office in the state? Do you have an employee in the state? Do you have goods at a warehouse in the state? Do you own property in the state, et cetera, right? So what defines that? Again, we're getting into legal things. So, I'm not a lawyer, but so like if you had an employee in Missouri, technically you would have nexus there. One potential way to connect the two would be having separate companies. So like, that your Shopify store or whatever is one company and you own a different company that has like all of your employees and they do management. So that would at least avoid that. But if you have goods in a warehouse here, so some states might say like utilizing Amazon in that state counts towards this. I don't know that I always agree with that, but to me, where, the key thing to focus on is going to be that economic nexus, right? So like if you get to where you're selling enough volume in any given state that you hit their economic threshold, that's when they're more likely to start coming after you, because they, it's easy to figure out if like a company's big enough that they might have nexus in a state. But like when you're first starting, it's not really a huge concern and you're probably not going to meet the nexus. But like if you get a warehouse in a given state, then that may be another story, right? So like, if you work with like only one warehouse for fulfillment and they're located in California, potentially, again, you probably want to talk to a tax attorney, but some tax attorneys may tell you that you may want to be registered in California. I think you're muted, Mike.
Yeah. Jeremy was asking for feedback on his logo. And so I think the logo is fine. One thing I do want to show you, so you know not to stress too much about that, is this is Amazon's logo history. They used to literally have a river kind of running through an A, which was like the most ghetto logo design on the planet. And then I don't know what's going on in that middle one. And then they had sort of basic text logo. Then they had, looks like one year they decided they're like super modern or something. And then now they have the kind of more like people think, oh yeah, they got the smile in their logo. That's genius. Like they didn't used to have that, I guess. And so long story short, I mean, that's like a, $1 trillion company or so. And so I think you do the best job you can with a logo. But I wouldn't stress out about it too much.
Word on the street is Amazon lost $1 trillion in market share recently.
Coming back, it's up like 10% today.
Should have bought yesterday.
Yeah. With a lot of stocks out there. How do you pronounce ROCIO, Mike? Do you remember Rocio? You're muted, Mike.
Rocio, I believe, is how we pronounce that.
All right, please correct us. I know we went through this before, but not a common name, I guess, for us. Where do we purchase what helps us avoid that people who enter our website read that the page they're entering is not secure? Usually, I'm not 100% sure. I know you can purchase it with your domain provider. You can purchase it with different software applications that use your domain. Rosio is what he says. Rosio. Awesome. So do you all know, I mean, it's been a while since I've set this up with like Shopify. Can you do that through Shopify?
You sure can. Shopify can set up that HTTPS secure connection for you. As a matter of fact, I think when you set your domain up through them, they're going to do that because it'll connect. And then they'll tell you it takes like an hour before the secure socket connection is working. So as long as you use Shopify, Rosio, you are completely fine.
Unique name, common in Spain. Do you that applies even if you bought the domain like through GoDaddy or anywhere else?
Yep.
As soon as you hook it up to Shopify, they're kind of like saying, hey, we'll do the SSL for you.
Yes.
Is that included in their fee?
Yeah, doesn't cost anything extra.
Okay, cool. We answered that one. Would you put a live chat on your site? Only I think if to me, it's super annoying when somebody has live chat, but then it just goes straight to email, like, because they don't have enough people actually monitoring it. So if you've got somebody monitoring it, like basically 24 hours a day, I would say yes. But unless you're willing to do that, I would say no, because I think it's just kind of annoying. But that's my personal opinion.
And then do you want to take Hiroko's question too, Matt?
Yeah, sorry for the last minute questions. Do you have any advice on how to improve marketing messages based on the PASTOR kind of acronym or framework that I recommended from like the copywriter Ray Edwards? To me, it's using it, which is probably missed by most people or something similar. That to me is the starting point. And it's kind of hard to answer that kind of like generic question, I guess, without like a specific example. Like if you have a page or something you want to throw over, like we could take a look at it. But I would say in general, using that framework, because I think most people probably are not. And then the big things that are going to move the needle, I mean, they kind of, it comes from old school direct marketing, but I think it still applies online, is that your headline, or at least the headline in the top kind of section of your page, is going to do so much heavy lifting that if you're going to change anything on your page to kind of test it, you would test that, like your headline or your kind of headline plus the lead-in section. That's typically the best starting point to improve page performance. And I would test very different options because it's like, if you're changing out 2 words in a headline, unless you're throwing like massive traffic at it, even then the results I think are going to be questionable. It's probably not going to move the needle. So you would test completely different things. So you can see, one may just completely bomb and the other one may do well, or they may do the same. And so that's a way that I would kind of like start improving it. And then I really stressed in like the off Amazon training and stuff that I think proof is still the most important element of all your copy, especially online and especially with a physical product. Like every element of possible proof, testimonials, videos, photos, media logos, news quotes, celebrities, all that stuff you can add, I think will dramatically improve your copy. Also, longer copy. what did that say? What was that quote? I can't remember the quote, but they basically it was like a guy who built like a $900 million advertising agency back in the day. He was basically making the point, I still think it's true, that by default, I would say I would opt for longer copy. I think most people go way too short and you're underselling your product. I mean, look at Apple. Like, I don't know if they still are, but they're one of the top 3 biggest companies in the world at any given time. And look at their product pages. Like, they're super long and they use all kinds of different media formats and stuff. And they're selling, nothing, even products that are not that expensive, like a couple $100 pair of headphones, the page is like this long. And I think that tells you something. I think the quote I was thinking of was like, the more you tell, the more you sell, or something. I think it's something to keep in mind. Like, the longer, the better, I think.
Rosie has got a follow-up question, and he said, as a matter of fact, when he tried checking out that logo for Tough Outdoors, the unsafe site message came up. I looked at it. It didn't come up for me. One thing to keep in mind is that message might be coming from your own specific virus web shield program, like using McAfee, WebRoot, all these Norton, semantic, it creates Norton actually. Those have their own messages that may not be like the whole internet is saying that site's bad. Your specific, I guess, like virus protection may be giving you a warning based on what they know from all the trusted sites. It's not one of them. Not everyone else is going to see that. I didn't see that, but I know what you're talking about. You sometimes get those messages, and it's usually from your own security system, not Google or anyone else out there. Lauren's question here. Lauren asks, what has your process been for funding growth, new products, or more inventory of an existing product? I mean, a couple different ways. One, keep putting back as much of the profits as you possibly can to buy more inventory of your existing product. And don't launch another product until you feel like you've really maxed out that existing product. That was our number one way of doing it back when we started out. We did take a little bit out. Like, I also feel like you have to reward yourself sometimes. And so there was a time when my brother and I started this, 9-10 years ago, that when we hit a certain threshold, and I think it was either $10,000 or $25,000 a month, we were going to give ourselves a bonus in cash. And so we, wasn't a huge amount, but it made us feel like it was worthwhile. So I think you still need to reward yourself, but as much as you can, put that money back into your business. We've also used the Amazon lending that they offered back in the day. It's still out there. You can still use it. And as long as you don't become dependent upon it, it can be a great way to purchase inventory. So I think we had to use it. We had our first deal of the day in 2014 was almost 10,000 units, some lanterns. It was retail, like Amazon paid us like $270,000 for it. Our cost was still well over $100,000. I didn't have that cash back then. So we used the Amazon lending program for that back then. And, we might have missed that opportunity if we didn't have that. So those programs can work as long as you don't become dependent upon them and as long as you pay them back. We actually paid it back a little earlier because of the interest on there, but it got us that deal of the day. It actually got us 2 of them. There's other programs out there. I'd be very, very skeptical about all these other programs. I have, and I usually save them because I want to show them. I get letters all the time in the mail from companies that want to fund Amazon-based businesses, and their rates may look good. And if you can, if it's going to help you make more of a profit than you end up spending in interest, then it might work out for you. But be very cautious about the rates because they may look good, but they're only telling you that rate like over like a 30-day period and not really telling you what it's going to cost you over the whole year or however long you're going to be taking that out. So other programs can help. They're expensive. Just make sure you do the math and are diligent about not becoming dependent upon them.
Kendall here is asking, need feedback on the name of my brand. It's workout supplements for pregnant/nursing moms. I was leaning towards Babe Labs, but some friends and family think using the word babe is too gimmicky or stereotypical. What are your thoughts? This picking a brand name thing is really holding me up. Obviously, I don't think no 3 of us are in your demographic. And so we may not, be the best ones to give feedback on this. I think if you feel comfortable with it, I think it's totally fine. I like that it's easy to spell, that it's short, relatively easy to say, as long as you don't try to say it too fast, I think. So I think these are all good qualities. And as long as the trademark is available and the .com domain or something similar is available, I think those are all good. to me, it doesn't immediately strike me as, something you wouldn't want to stick with. Like, I think it's fine, but not exactly in your demographic, but I think it checks a lot of those other boxes. I know there's been some, I forgot what they sell, but like Boss Babes or something like that. Like one of those brands, like they blew up like huge. And so I think that's a good example of like, they use the word babe in there and it seemed to be fine for them. So if you can find other examples like that, I would trust the proof of the results versus some like friends and family's opinions that have probably never built a business before. To me, that's more valuable if you can find those kind of proof elements. And if you like it, obviously.
Lena's asking if there's a contract template for influencers. We don't have a contract template, but I know that Matt actually included an email when reaching out to them, kind of like, well, it's written in my voice, my name, but yeah, it'll tell you how to reach out to them, but there is no contract template for them that we have. I did make a note, Lena, that's something we may look into, see if there's a simple contract you can use. I do know that the two programs I mentioned, Shopify Collabs and also the branded content on Facebook, they help kind of solidify that inside of their system. So it probably takes care of that issue for you right there.
There's also a thread in the Facebook group talking about contracts for influencers. Like, because when we were doing a lot of Dream 100 outreach, like I had an agreement and a lot of them didn't like that I was trying to do that. So I think it depends, especially if you're going to go like the strict affiliate route. I mean, yeah, you can have like a typical affiliate agreement, but in some cases they were like, it's not worth the time of having my lawyer review this to do this. So on some of those, we chose to just, not have the agreement, basically.
Laura says she's probably enjoying our trying to find out if the word babe is a good brand name. So Laura says, LO, as a woman trying to get pregnant, I would steer away from anything babe and go toward more health conscious brand names. Babe reminds me of all the annoying unwanted attention I got from men in my 20s. So there's your feedback from her, who's more in your demographic. There's something interesting here too, is like, maybe Laura, this kind of striking a nerve with her, you could take it as like, maybe I should steer away from that brand name. You could also take it as like, if it stands out, then it's going to get people's attention, whether they like it or not. So it's hard to say. I mean, it depends if you want to go safe route or more edgy route. And it's like, you can always change it in the future. Like people change brand names, like Facebook changed to Meta, even though, they're massive too. So it's like a much of a bigger deal and problem and sort of like probably decade-long process for them. So it is possible to change it in the future. Whatever you do, I would set a deadline, like good, bad, or indifferent, like set a deadline for coming up with your brand name. Like, don't let that be the thing that holds you back. It's not going to matter that much, in my opinion, as long as it ticks those kind of other boxes. You can spell it, you can say it, you have the domain that's easy to type in, you've got the trademark, all that kind of stuff. I mean, an interesting example is like Berkshire Hathaway. Like, what the heck is Berkshire Hathaway? Like, nobody knows, but it's like $600 billion company. And if you go to their website, it's the most ghetto website that's got, it's like, looks like literally like a 13-year-old who just figured out how to do HTML. And it's a $600 billion company that's got a brand name that means almost nothing. So I think a brand name is useful, but I would also get through that process as quickly as possible with some sort of deadline. Like literally, I would say your deadline is like, for me, it's 4 p.m. Central now. Your deadline is 7 p.m. tonight. Like that kind of fast deadline, just so you could pick something and keep moving on. But thank you, Laura, for your feedback. That's another good point that's just as valid as ours.
A question from Jean-Michel asking when the mindset module is coming out. I made a note to figure out when we're going to put that in there. We have what Jean-Michel's talking about is in the original ASM, the last version of ASM, the welcome module has some great lessons. I have to say it here. He's on the call from Matt, all about these 7 principles of success. And it really talks about setting yourself up for success, getting the right mindset, and really like creating an environment to be successful. We have uploaded all the lessons into the platform. I just don't think we've made them available yet. Devin, have we made that available? Is that kind of like an on request thing so far?
So I don't think it's all uploaded yet because it's taking a long time to get all the videos added. So.
Oh, okay, that's right. 'Cause that's like 30 something hours so far. So Jean-Michel, we'll try to get that one up there within the week or so, and maybe pull that one out separately because it really can stand alone. And then we'll ping you guys in the Facebook group when that's ready.
Jeremy saying it's blowing my mind how many small niche brands are out there. It seems like the game is all about trying to be seen as by as many of the right people for the least amount of money. I know this is not going to be something that can really be answered. How do you break through? Yeah, I mean, I think like that is the ideal, is if you can find like a super tiny audience and you're the only one who has a product like specifically for that audience and they really want it, like that's like the holy grail of marketing. The problem is it's usually not that easy to reach people in that small of a group, which is why you have to do all this other stuff, like have a high converting landing page, have all these elements of proof, all these features, all these benefits, because you're kind of like doing a little bit of like mass marketing almost, just kind of on a micro scale with Facebook and small test budgets and stuff, because you're trying to find those people and attract them. But if you do end up having a product that has a way to reach a very small niche group, and you can actually reach those people, I mean, that's ideal. That's why for us, it's kind of like, I think Facebook is a good default for any brand. But if you feel like you can reach a very specific group of people that are already searching for your product or within a certain community or something, then there's different forms of marketing like Google search ads or going through more specific influencers. For example, if you have a product that's like super specific to like surfing or something, you may not want to literally just target everybody on the planet on Facebook. You may be better off doing Google search ads or going through content videos with certain hashtags, or, you know, going after existing communities within there. So that's how I see it anyways.
And then Rosie had some feedback as well on the Babe Labs. He liked the word Babe, not crazy about labs, said I might want to use a word related to workout because that's something more positive. Just wanted to share that with you as well.
Let's see here. Hiroko says, I received prices from some of the suppliers and the higher ones about 25% of the target price with the duty and shipping costs without the packaging. I still want to use a drawstring bag as packaging because it complements the product. But do you know if I need something like a poly mailer or an OPV bag, if not a paper box? I wanted to avoid plastic packaging from sustainability perspective. So are you saying like something to go on the outside of the drawstring bag? Because on that, I think it would really depend a little bit on if you're doing the fulfillment or somebody else's. You know, like for me, I don't know that I would want a drawstring bag at just like some random warehouse and making sure that they're taking care of that product before it gets into a box. Like I've seen some warehouses that are pretty dirty, so I would want control over that. Otherwise, I would just put it in like a cardboard box.
You can use reusable or recycled cardboard boxes for that too, Hiroko.
All righty, I think that is the last question we have. So yeah, thanks everybody. Don't necessarily have any other big announcements other than SellerCon. We're starting to going to be getting close into announcing the dates sort of publicly into everybody. And as soon as we do that, we're going to kind of start bumping the price up. So if you haven't grabbed your ticket to SellerCon, go to sellercon.com and we would love to see you there. So yeah, lots of thank you, Naveed, anonymous attendee, aloha. Thank you all. So yeah, thanks everybody. And that's it for me. I'll let these guys sign off. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Yeah, quick reminder, next week's Tuesday call is going to be on Monday because Devin and I will be traveling down to see Matt in Austin. You should already have an email notice about that. The link to join this call or the Tuesday call will work. Exact same link, just one day earlier. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you on Monday.